I'm Stu Frothingham. I'm with Puget Sound Solar. I'm the communications director. We've got Stefan and Jennifer Frei here with us, a couple of our customers and part-time solar installers. And we've got Roy Foster, one of Puget Sound
Hey
Solar's
guys.
salespeople, and he was the salesperson and designer for the Frei's system. I'm going to go through a lot of information, and I'm going to just go ahead and start up on the slide deck now. Overall, we're going to talk about who we are. We just did that. I'll tell you a little bit about the solar project, some things about the incentives that are out there for folks that are going solar, show you a little bit of information about quotes, talk to you a little bit about the Frei's project, and do some question and answers with the Frei's. And so we'll kind of go from there. Let's see here. One of the things, and if you're interested, you can win some of Stefan's artwork. Just go to our website, fill out the get a free quote form, and then add the message "Go Sounders" in there, and that'll enter you into a drawing to just get a personally autographed piece of artwork from Stefan. Or if you actually go solar with us as part of this promotion, then type "Go Solar, Go Sounders" in the free quote box, and you'll get actually a free print with Stefan's autograph on it. And I just actually got to see this piece of artwork that he's standing in front of for the first time about 3 weeks ago down at Climate Pledge. So that was pretty cool. It took me a few times of popping through there to find that one. So a little bit about Puget Sound Solar. We're the oldest, longest established solar company in the Pacific Northwest. We've been around since 2001. We installed the very first grid-tied solar PV system in Seattle, and we've done about 2,400 solar installations, 2,200 EV charger installations. Solar and EVs go really well together. And they actually help justify paying each other off quicker that way. We've been really involved with legislative policy work, founding member of WASIA, which is a professional solar organization. We're active in our community with community events. We have a dedicated service department. If something goes wrong, we'll fix it through our 25-year workmanship and product warranties. And so that's a little bit about Puget Sound Solar. One of the things I wanted to make sure we went through today was talking about incentives. There's really essentially 3 incentives that are out there financially for folks that are considering going solar. One is a 30% federal tax credit. That's off the cost of all the materials, the labors, electrical permits, any materials that need to be purchased for the system, or any underlying roof structure, not the roofing materials itself, but just if we need to brace up the inside of the roof for the structure, that also qualifies for the 30% tax credit. There's also no sales tax in Washington State on solar, so that saves you another roughly 10%. And there's another piece called net metering, which I'll talk about more here in just a moment. And net metering is, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. There's also solar financing. We're not going to talk about that much, but you can get into solar pretty quickly, pretty easily with low to no upfront costs. And we talk about things oftentimes in return of investment. That's one way of looking at it. Another one is your monthly cash flow. How much money are you putting out towards your electric bill every month? And that's actually a really nice way to frame it. ROI can really vary from one roof to the next, but it really speaks, I think, to folks when you're able to get to this point where pretty quickly what you're spending on owning your solar equipment that will pay for itself several times over in the lifespan of its warranty, you will be able to pay less every month pretty quickly than what you're previously paying on your electric bill. Hope that makes sense. We'll come back to that. The benefits of net metering, I talked about that a little bit. Basically, net metering is the push-pull with the utility. And the reason why net metering is so important is we get 74, almost 75% of our solar access here in like 6 months of the year. And you're recognizing it, we're starting to see those days get shorter and shorter and shorter, and the sun's starting to drop further and further on the horizon. It's actually, though, Seattle still, despite our cloudiness at part of the year, it's still a great spot for solar because solar prefers cool temperatures. And so it still produces on cloudy days, and the rain always helps clean it. That's also another benefit. And net metering essentially is the push-pull with the utilities. So when you are in these nice summer months, we have these really long 16-hour days. For every kilowatt hour that your house cannot use when you are at home or whatever's going on, your system's still producing and it sends electricity out to the grid. And you get a credit from your utility for every time you push a credit out to the grid. your utility is mandated to give you a credit back. And so we really overproduce in the summertime, and then you burn off those credits in the wintertime when it's like longer or shorter days, more heating, more lighting, all those kind of things. And then every year that bank of kilowatt hours gets zeroed out by the utility at the end of March, and then it restarts. So there's no incentives really for oversizing systems. So when we're designing them, we really try to bullseye what your usage is. And that's a really important part of things, because most people don't want to donate to the utility. A nice benefit of going solar, it increases home value, according to Zillow. They've done a lot of studies on this, and there's other places. Lawrence Berkeley Institute is a college that also did some studies along this way. But look, if you're getting a 4.1% bump on your home resale or sell, if you're looking at an $834,000 house, that increases your value of the house $34,000 right there. And it's if you had, and basically the idea behind the study was if you had two houses identical next door to each other, one had solar, one did not, the one with solar will sell for more. And people are now looking at solar and they understand that it is actually a value add. So that actually, a lot of times, by the time people get done with that 30% federal tax credit, and then they're adding this value to the home, within a couple of years, they're actually cash positive. They're just still paying on the loan, and it takes a while to actually see that cash come back in your pocket. Long-term financial benefits, this is what I was talking about, where at a certain point, once you get past this first little bit here and you get back your 30% federal tax credit, a lot of times people will end up being cash positive. You're already on this chart here. I want to point with my fingers, and I can't do that on the screen so well. But you can see that there's a couple arrows there, and the second arrow is when you're saving more money than what you're previously spending on your electric bill. And that's a really cool part of when people go cash with solar. It really accelerates the payback period quite a bit. And in this case, over like 25 years, that'll save this customer $14,000. So that's a pretty big savings. And cost of electricity has been continuing to rise. We've been actually seeing some kind of startling news coming out about that lately. And PSE, who the Fries are on their electric grid, they have to get off of all their coal-based electricity within the next couple of years. So they have to replace it with something really quickly. And they're looking for all the residential solar that they can get. And they're also going to be building some utility scale solar too. So it's interesting kind of watching the evolution of this. Part of doing solar, this is what Roy does, is he looks at roofs. He comes up with designs. He'll customize the design. This house happened to be in a design stage when we got the project to start off with. And so he had to essentially build a framework in software to be able to build up a roof. And then he was able to overlay where the solar looks good, where it doesn't. And so you can look at the screen, and where it's in a lighter yellow, more whitish color, which you're not seeing on this roof because we're living in the Pacific Northwest, but the darker spots are the less productive spots. So if my mouse is showing up, hopefully, you can see over here on this is like the southeast roof corner, and you can see this is fairly shaded. So the decision was made at this point in time to add solar over here on the northeastish corner of the house. And there's more roof space up there, but that was like the most viable spot that was picked for right now. And so when we're working with our customers, we always look at, there's oftentimes multiple roof planes that we've got to look at. And so we can look at each roof and kind of figure out which is the most productive, which is the least, and then customize the system with our customer that way. There's also a nice piece of software called solar monitoring, and this is actually the Fries. I didn't actually talk to them about showing their monitoring, but a lot of people like looking at their monitoring, and so this is what your solar system did for the last week. I'm guessing here is when you're plugging in an electric car on certain days of the week, because there was a huge spike on those days. But the important part is to not beat up on each other when you start seeing that, because that means you've really joined the solar nerd group. I've had customers that actually confronted their spouse about, you left the hot water on, you left the heater on, you left this on, or whatever. How did you know that? And they pick up their phone and they're looking at their phone. It's like, not a good use. But most people like to look at this. It's great because monitoring tells you if your system's working. It tells you if it's underperforming, if something's broken, and it can also send you alerts. And if you let us have access to the monitoring, it'll let us know too. And we've got a full service department that kind of watches that every so often, and they will reach out to our customers if they see something wonky is going on there. So yeah, but it was interesting. So the blue lines are the energy production. The orangey lines are the energy usage, what's being consumed in the household. So anyhow, and so here we are. We've got our part-time installation crew. They worked very hard. I would like to point out, like the smallest person in this picture is carrying more of the weight than the two bigger people, but I won't spend too long there.
I had a training day. Okay, cut me a break. I had a training day before.
I saw the gravel that you moved. That was a lot of training there too. So, let's see here. So this is the part where I wanted to ask you guys a few leading questions. Let you talk about your experience with going with Puget Sound Solar, your labor time, but also just kind of the overall experience. So one of my first questions for you would be, tell me, kind of when did solar first come up in your thoughts when you guys were looking to build your house? What did that process look like for you?
I think it was a dream very early on. Obviously, we're on Bainbridge Island. We're surrounded by nature. We wanted to make sure that we were trying to treat the nature with the utmost respect. And obviously, with climate change and everything that's happening, I think it's becoming more and more of a topic. And I think something that we made a conscious decision that we wanted to participate in this in a positive way. So, we already from the beginning kind of looked at what kind of components did we want. Our appliances, everything is electric. We obviously have electric vehicles too. And so we were kind of trying to see, would it be possible to add some solar panels? And, when you're building a dream house, it's, when you're building any house, there's added costs here and there. And sometimes it's difficult to have that splurge at the end with adding some solar panels, even if you're dying to do that. But it was a good moment for us because we were able to then kind of make sure everything was set up properly. The electrical was done the right way, so we would have the solar panels, we would have the microinverters and all that. And so it was perfect because we could just kind of start with 24 panels. For a particular reason, obviously, but always a possibility to add some more, and we're definitely looking to do that. But why not now is another question, right? Like, why not start now? Because as you mentioned before, I think the price of electricity is only going to go up. We're gonna, have to more and more try to find greener solutions, and hopefully we can have more and more people join. And so we wanted to take that step as a family and kind of start doing our part as well.
Very cool. And we really should have challenged Roy and had him come up with like a 24 on the roof with the design.
Still possible.
The next 24. We'll give you some creative freedom.
That's true. Yeah, I'll share something with you afterwards about a solar I have that's kind of along those lines. All right, how did you get to the point? So you went through, I understand you were environmentally concerned, you were trying to figure out how to make your home more efficient. How did you end up finding Puget Sound Solar and making the run at Puget Sound Solar?
Well, at first we were looking at just some local companies that have been in the game for a while, know what they're talking about, have good proven track record, and you guys came highly recommended. So obviously we had a couple of bids come in, and all fairly similar, but I think the thing again that spoke to us was the reputation. Exactly, yeah. So it's kind of a no-brainer, especially when I think Roy was the first contact we had, and was exceptionally knowledgeable when he came out to our place and told us of the possibilities that he saw in what we're trying to achieve with our house. And then that was kind of the start, and we just kept the ball rolling.
Very cool. Okay. So that was how you picked the company. How'd you pick the equipment? How did that happen?
Roy also, with his knowledge, he obviously was able to kind of give us a couple of options. For what we ended up going with, ours are REC panels, 410s, and one of the big ones obviously is a great output. One of the, I think, best in their line that they have. For me, what was important, and I was just trying to look at all the kind of stats that we could, look at, and some of them that I could actually understand. And the big one for me was that 25-year warranty. I think after 25 years, they promised that the output would still be at 92%.
That's right, yeah.
And that was a big one for me because other ones were going into the 80s. So I felt like, this was a long-term investment for us. And obviously, we wanted these panels to operate at their highest capacity for as long as possible. And so them having that guarantee, that warranty was, I think, the reason why we went with them. And then, Enphase have just came out with new microinverters, I think, at that point with the IQ8s, and just kind of at least getting a little bit of knowledge from Roy about, I think back in the day, your whole array was kind of like just firing at one, everything was kind of doing one thing. And
central inverter.
Inverters, yeah, exactly. You can really adjust every single panel to their maximum potential, right? And especially like we see in these pictures here, we have some trees, and as the sun is moving, and some panels might get a little bit of shade. Some of them that are not are just still firing on all cylinders. And so I love technology, and I think when you buy into technology too, you kind of want the best of the best if you can. And so it was really nice to see that, that new technology had just come out and we were able to take advantage of it.
Very cool. I think that was all wise decisions, honestly. It's like, so you ended up with, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it. It's a 9.2 kilowatt system size made up of 24 REC 405 watt modules that have that nice 25-year warranty. And then Enphase IQ8 plus microinverters. And we used Iron Ridge racking, which we'll see in some of the pictures here in a moment. And then S5 clamps, which is what our installer is putting in right there in that picture that's up in the moment. And these are actually great going on a metal seam roof because there's no roof penetrations except where we had to run the wires for this solar back down to the electrical panel. There's like one hole in the roof. That's it. And I love that. I wish I had that for my solar, but
we do as well.
Yeah. No, it's punching holes in roofs is like anxiety producer, but we've also had a really good track record with not causing leaks. So that's been really important. Did you install batteries or energy backup? Did you do a power wall or Enphase power backup at all?
We have not done that. I'm kind of waiting a little bit. We have two Teslas, so we have two electric vehicles, and I think this was just a start for us now with the solar panels. We would love to add some more solar panels. I also know that in Europe, you're also able to use some of the electric vehicles as your batteries, and maybe that's something that would be possible down the road. So I was hoping that maybe legislation would kind of catch up in the US a little bit and allow us to do that. I don't even know if our vehicles are capable of doing it, but I just felt like that would be maybe something that we could add down the road. For now, it was important to kind of get a kick started, add some panels, get us really going, and then kind of go on from there.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think you're absolutely right on the vehicle to grid part. That is coming. We see a lot of noise about that. And in fact, Enphase is one of the companies that's working on that technology too. So I'm sure you probably get their emails, but that's pretty exciting to see that. And look at that. Boy, I'm not even going to make any more comments on that. Let's see here. You have monitoring on your place, and I kind of teased a picture of it. Do you look at yours at all? What I've gathered from you, my guess is that you're looking at it periodically, but I'm kind of curious.
I have, yeah, I have. I think it's super cool to see, how much you're able to produce, how much you're putting into the grid, how much we're pulling from the grid. I mean, we have quite a electrical, or how should I say this? Our house is built using electricity. Honestly, we have the only two things that we have is an indoor fireplace and an outdoor fireplace that's gas. Other than that, everything is electric. We have water heaters, we have floor heating, we have a stove, we have a induction cooktop, so everything is electrical. And then so obviously it's going to pull a little bit more. We have again charging cars as well. So we're by no means are we off the grid at this point, but it was a good start, and we're happy with the decision. We're super happy. So, but it's nice with the app because again, for me as someone who loves technology, just to kind of see what was actually going on. You know, how are you making a difference? And even if it's just a little bit going into the grid for our neighbors or for whoever it is, you know, and it'll be interesting, like you said, when these companies have to start producing clean energy. Who knows? Maybe they will have to give us twice the credits for our electricity that we're producing. Right? It would be nice.
That would be awesome. That we would love to see that. But it's like, yeah, and what, you know, you're really, I love that you're aware of that. It's like whatever it is you're producing at your house that you're using, that's that much less coal that's getting burned over in Montana. That's fantastic. So that's great. All right, I'm going to kind of wrap my question here in a second, but I did want to ask, so what's your favorite thing about solar right now? Now you've had it for like 10 months or so.
For me, I mean, Jen, my wife, can speak for herself. And for me, it's just it makes me feel like we have some skin in the game. You know, we kind of felt in a way. I think I felt that way when we bought our electric vehicles. You know, when we bought our Teslas, I felt like you can talk the talk, but it's nice when you actually are trying to make conscious decisions as well. And you know, in the grand scheme of things, we're probably really small compared to some big companies that make you know, bigger moves, if you will. But still, it feels really good to do your part, even if it's a small one. And going to solar panels was the same way. It feels like we're making a conscious move to try to help our beautiful planet, our nature. You know, we really appreciate where we live. We want to keep it that way. We want to keep it nice. And I think we're just going to add on down the road to do more.
Jennifer, did you have anything you want to throw in there at all?
Lower energy bills. Love seeing that every month.
Great.
That is a nice
Very valid point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, and here's like I think a couple of my last pictures of this round. I'll show some more pictures here in a moment. All right. Yeah, this is a rooftop. This is like the one spot where we did have to punch a hole through the roof, but we've got it flashed up, and there's lots of silicone wrapped around there as well, and so it's really nice and elegant in that way. And we leave it accessible in case we do have to come back and mess around with things. We don't have to start pulling panels off. We just got easy access right there, and it's not visible from down below, so it's kind of nice in that way. And this is what the finished install looked like. Kind of follows the dog leg up here on the top of the house in the roof line, and there's still room for expansion. Unfortunately, I took this picture after we'd been up there with our muddy boots and everything, so it's not the cleanest look. Sorry about that, but I know it's like I know the home hadn't been finished when I had popped over for these pictures. All right, so this is my second reminder, I think, for you can win some of Stefan's artwork. Again, just go to our website, fill out the free quote form, add the message "Go Sounders," and we'll enter you into a drawing to win one of his art pieces. And if you buy solar from us and you're part of this program, then he'll give you a personally autographed print as well. So let's see here. All right, so I'm going to turn this over to, I'm going to say, Derek, you are it right now. So you guys have the floor. You guys got like kind of a great opportunity here to ask questions. And I think Roy said that you are a customer, that you are thinking about going solar. I didn't quite catch that.
Yeah, no worries. First, my wife Nora, introduced her.
Hi.
She's the brains behind everything, I would say, to be honest with you. So we're thinking of going solar. I've wanted to go to do solar for a very long time. Just could never really afford it, to be honest with you. We've made some pretty good moves the past few years, and we're financially making enough money each year that this makes sense to us, right? And we have two electric vehicles. We've got the Mach-E and the F-150 Lightning, which we consciously made a decision. We got rid of both our, we had a Jeep and we had a Corolla, and we wanted to go fully electric. And kind of the next step for that is solar is kind of what we're looking at. I guess the one question I have, it's kind of the question I have almost anybody I interview after they've made a big decision or they do something is what would you do different? So what, not necessarily a mistake you made, but based on how how you approach solar and where you're sitting right now, what would you guys do different? I'm kind of curious about that.
I think the only thing that sometimes is on my mind is, I mean, we are on an island, right? And the electricity does go out once in the blue moon, and we've heard stories from our neighbors too that like there's been times where maybe they were 2 or 3 days without power. And fortunately, like I think the worst, I was on the road, so I got spared, but my wife was at home. And I think it was like quite a few hours, maybe 7 hours or so. And so like we don't have a battery right now. So sometimes I wonder, we don't have a generator because that would just be totally against everything that we're trying to do here, in my opinion. But so we don't have a battery right now, and maybe it will take a moment like that, an experience like that for me to be like, okay, we need to add that now. That's the only thing that I have. Other than that, I'm super happy that we pulled the trigger, and I totally know where you're coming from in terms of, like I said, we built their house. There's so many costs that kind of come up that you're not ready for. And then the last thing is like, well, this is a splurge. Or at least that's how we looked at it. We would love to do it, but we ended up just kind of opening the door, and it's 24 panels for us. And I said, our house is quite power hungry, electrical. And I would say, I don't know, maybe Stu, you've looked at it more. I would say maybe over the year will be maybe 30% in or something independent, something like that, maybe. So we'll have to add before. No.
I mean, I was just eyeballing it and I didn't look at the actual stats, but I was thinking you were like closer to 50%, honestly.
Awesome.
Which is actually pretty impressive given it's not, you guys have a beautiful house.
Yeah.
But it's not like a McMansion house either. So it's pretty, and I think you did like triple pane windows or double pane windows. You were energy efficient all the way around.
Yeah.
And you're doing, I think, radiant floor heating too.
Yep, exactly. So
all those things are going to make your electric bill go up.
Yeah.
But they're also, if you're doing it this way, it's like going to prevent more carbon from being burned. And so,
So we just kind of wanted to get started, and I think we added those 24 in the beginning, and we're super happy with that because we feel like we're going to add more, and it's pretty simple to add more. So I think just kind of getting it started was great. So I have no regrets whatsoever.
Yeah. If I can jump in real fast too. So with the Fry's house, it was a brand new construction. So there's no electric history. We didn't know when we were designing it what their electric consumption is going to be. And so it kind of makes sense with new construction to do just what they did. You put in kind of a starter system, you live in the house for a year, 2 years, whatever, and then you'll know how much energy you need to produce from solar. And then we can go in and, be real accurate on, you need this many panels to offset your electric bill. But before we know how much usage they have, then we're just guessing at that point. I mean, nobody really knows. So
and that makes sense. When Roy, when you came out here, we're looking at putting in a heat pump. So we're originally from Illinois, and I don't understand houses that don't have some sort of conditioned air for the summertime. And so just I didn't get it when we bought the house.
Yeah.
So we're looking to put that, and we're looking to put in an office for the wife in the backyard because she works from home. And so it's just a whole bunch of large items that we're looking to do. And we knew if we were going to do the heat pump, we really want to do this as well, and just got to make sure that the numbers work out for us. And it looks like they will, but still crunching them right now.
Yeah. And I think we align with you, this idea of like, it does kind of feel like a splurge.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And what do we have to give to it?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. The one thing too, though, that we were thinking while this was going on, and we were like, it is a splurge, but it's only the price of electricity is only going to go up, right? So like either it's going to be a splurge now and you get what you get now, or it's going to be a splurge later and you, comparatively speaking, probably get a little bit less, or it'll cost more, right? So it's like this was just the time to like, you might as well pull the trigger now if you're into it. That's how we felt. I'm not telling you to do it. You guys know what you need to do. But that's kind of how we ended up justifying it in the end. Yeah.
It's one of the very few home projects really that honestly pays for itself over time. I mean, by the time you get to the end of that 25-year worth of warranty, and it's still got lifespan on it, it's going to continue to produce. So it's like the kitchen counters, the roof, the there's nothing else there in the house that I've ever come up with that will actually generate money. If you do an addition, you'll sometimes get that money back. But this is actually generating, it's got a cash flow to it, which is kind of unusual. Other questions, Derek and Norm?
Was there anything that surprised you from the whole experience that maybe you weren't anticipating?
Anything? No, I mean, honestly, like it's pretty nice when I think we were pretty green about solar. We knew we wanted it, and it's pretty green in terms of it produces power for you in a green way. But then it's really nice when you have people that can kind of give you the ins and outs and what makes sense and why and what's the new technology. Like the microinverters, I was fascinated by that, and that sounded really awesome. And that's really cool to see actually on the app as well, because you can actually look at your array and then it shows you color, kind of like which ones are performing at what level. So again, for someone who likes technology, it was cool to get educated on some new technology and see it visually too. I think maybe that's a nice thing about the apps too, right? Because if you're just kind of like, oh, they're up there and they're producing, it's cool and all, but when you can actually like see it, there's even a button where you can press and it shows you live what's going on at that moment.
You're gonna love
Yeah, I would love
And
that.
that's pretty wicked, yeah, because you're like, oh, we're pulling a little too much, or you're like, oh, we're actually producing more. It feels really good. Yeah, it's awesome.
wonderful.
I'm jealous because I don't have monitoring on mine, but I walk by and I have one of the single string inverters, so I walk by my system and it's just like, okay, it's working, but I couldn't tell you which panel is working better than another one or anything else like that. So
I'm sure you know someone who can hook you up.
perhaps,
right.
yeah. Actually, well, part of the issue is I've got an older system that it's not microinverter compatible, so I'm kind of stuck with this shit. I've had mine for 10 years, so it's older technology at this point.
I
so.
know that was kind of one of my concerns, and maybe I'm not going to get this exactly right, but one of my colleagues like did his whole house with a brand that is no longer, and he found out down the line that to add on in the future, it wasn't going to be compatible with anything else. That was one of our concerns. Like, we go with this and we're just doing a starter package, with the view to get more down the road. Like, are we going to this is best and final, we need to decide now. So that was a big deciding factor for us, that we can add on. And with other, I think, not just.
Yeah, and I think that was also maybe one decision why we ended up going with REC, because they seem that they've been in the game for a while too, and they're producing really high quality panels, and so we were kind of hoping that they were gonna keep going and keep producing great panels, and we were able to add on to that. I'm not sure. I think you can actually you don't have to get the exact same panel all over, right? You can
No.
kind of mix and match in a certain way, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot of progress in the last, like, since I went solar, there's been a lot of progress technology wise. And the microinverters have a lot to do with that. Just because you could put a mismatched set of panels next to each other with microinverters and it'll work just fine. In the past, you couldn't do that. And so the newer microinverters are pretty nice, especially the one right as you got yours that was like a really interesting generation that came out, because it opened up a lot of new capabilities. So your timing was really good on that. How about other questions or things? I had a couple more questions here, but
Hey, Paul out there, Paul Campbell. Did you have any questions, Paul?
No, I don't think so. I'm looking at solar for the same reasons both of you did. And, I have a pre-existing house that leaks a lot of heat. So we got a heat pump and that has definitely helped. We also recently went to a heat pump hot water heater. So we're kind of like going around trying to reduce usage, but then also want to offset the usage with panels. And we have a little gas stove in case the power goes out. My wife says I can't get rid of it until we have batteries. So I think it's going to be solar panels with a couple power walls so that we can heat the house if the power goes out.
other solar questions that are coming to folks' mind right now? All right. Well, I had a question. I'm going to shift just a little bit here to some other kind of fun stuff. So I know this, and I don't know if everybody else knows it. I've mentioned it a couple times now, I guess. But so you do a little dabbling in art when you're not busy kicking a ball around or trying to stop a ball from rolling past. How did you come to decide upon art? What does art represent in your life? I guess that's the question I have for you.
I mean, if I go all the way back, it started when I was a kid. You know, I was always into doodling and other things. But I think looking back at it, I had to take the train growing up in Switzerland. I had to take the train to go to training and school quite often, and I'd peek out of the windows, and you know, especially when you're kind of seeing greenery and beautiful landscapes, and then another train rushes by you, and you see a bright neon man-made graffiti on there. I love that juxtaposition. I always did. Kind of like those two different worlds colliding, but two beautiful things at the same time. And you know, I had friends who would hop the fence and go into train yards. I couldn't or I didn't because I already was way too much into soccer, and that was my world. And fast forward, you know, even college, I wanted to study it but couldn't because I was too much of a time commitment with sports. But I think it kind of just took another step when I turned pro. My mom and my brother got me a pen tablet, which is essentially, you know, you can kind of draw digitally, and that, without me knowing, it became a huge outlet to deal with pressures of my number one job, and just kind of get lost in the world of painting without any bad consequences. You know, like, you know, you have to do it this way or else there'll be a goal. Like in soccer, that's how it is as a goalkeeper. And in art, that doesn't exist. It's almost like, I say the super cliche thing. It's like there's no such thing as a mistake. A mistake can lead to something beautiful, something that you have never thought could be done that way. And again, as a goalkeeper, that doesn't really exist. And so I kind of started just doing it more and more. Got into doing things for fundraisers and then charities and stuff like that. And then a few years back, I wanted to kind of learn how to do it on canvas. And that's when I kind of came out as an artist, started selling pieces, started learning how to do things on canvas. Ultimately, I think I would love to come full circle and start doing murals and just get my pieces out there into the public, because that's what kind of graffiti was all about, or still is all about, right? Get your name out there, get your pieces out there, and it would be really cool to be able to do that. Well, you've seen one in public, right? So it's kind of the first steps of that, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, that's that. I also kind of wanted to do it right now while I'm still a professional soccer player, because kind of show people that, hey, if you are passionate about something, and you're willing to really put hours into it and work hard, that you can achieve things. Because I do get a lot from people that you're so fortunate, you're so lucky that you're able to do what you do for a living. And I agree, but sometimes people don't see how much sweat, blood, and tears went into it. Not just on my end, but also from my family, from my wife, from my mom when I was a little boy, you know. And so it's nice to be able to show people that the second passion, look, I have this passion, but I'm willing to put things behind it to turn it into something even more. Sorry,
Long. Thank you. No, I like it. No, that's really fascinating to hear that. And I remember one of the things when we were up on the roof and I was asking you a similar question, you talked about you really were fascinated by all the lines and all the geometry that goes on. So I kind of put this one together for you.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the pictures right there, you have, right, like, you know, there's so many angles, so many, and there's a harmony in angles for me, at least. You know, there's harsh angles, there's angles that work together, there's angles that fight for attention. I've always been fascinated by architecture. It was actually my number 2 choice in college, which I could also not do. But I definitely see a lot of things in architecture. Obviously, that's why our house is also very contemporary, very much into angles for sure.
And I remembered you said like the angles was like part of what you have to be aware of on the field, is anticipating angles, and that kind of ties in some ways. And so that may actually lead me into, okay, I was going to ask you where to find your artwork, but I'm going to splash it up here. But if you want to mention it really quickly, where you've got your artwork at. And I'm also going to follow up afterwards for the folks who are here. I'll send you an email, not to harass you, but with a link to the video of this. And I've also got like some resources as well, some other cool pieces I'll just throw in there for you to take a look-see at. But they're not salesy kind of things. They're just information pieces. So where do we find your artwork?
So I have a website dedicated to my art. It's Stefan24Frei.com. Because of my job as a professional athlete, I can't update it as much as I want to, which is it just is what it is. But I try to post things on my socials, obviously, to keep people updated on those things. In terms of art pieces in the public, there's one at Climate Pledge Arena, the one that you see right there, The Emergence of the Kraken. If you ask people, they should hopefully help you figure it out where it is. It's pretty cool to see. It's a pretty big piece. I'm pretty happy with that one. There's another one, a second one actually at the main WAFED branch, downtown Seattle on, I think it's on Pike, I think. It's the downtown branch. And there's a really big one hanging in there as well. So yeah, those are the two that you can see in person, the originals. But I would love to add more. So I will definitely let people know on my socials if I add more in the public.
I have a soccer related question for you. So this might be like shooting myself in the foot here, but with the blowing up a relationship. So I watch soccer a bit. It's not a sport I grew up with. I've mentioned that to you before, but I was watching the match last week, and the two goals that came in, they were wicked. They were hard, fast headers. To me, it's like it seemed like it's pretty much impossible to stop that kind of stuff. What for you is the hardest kind of shots to anticipate or to block? I've been kind of curious about that. I don't know if like something like that. It just seems like it's such a change of direction, and now you've got to respond, and it's coming off there lightning fast. Everything's coming at you lightning fast. Those just seem like it's unfair, even.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can never guess on anything. So it's actually the biggest thing is trying to put yourself in the right angles again, putting yourself in the best position to be able to react, anticipating certain things in terms of maybe if you truly, let's say you're 2v1 against you, which, you're kind of, the odds are against you. If you see an opening, if someone takes a big touch or something, just recognizing those situations and seeing if you can change those odds in your favor. You should never really be someone who risks anything as a goalkeeper. My keeper coach always jokes that if you give a striker $100 and send him to the casino, he'll come back with $0. If you give a goalkeeper $100, he'll come back with $100 because he's not gonna gamble on anything. But truly, the hardest thing is if you don't see the ball. That's the hardest thing, because then you cannot see, like I say, a free kick, we put a wall in. I usually put a wall in so that I can see the ball. But what's happening in the last 5 to 10 years is opponents start putting a second wall up to try to take your vision. Because if then, by the time the ball crosses my wall, that's the first time I see the ball, it's way too late. The goal is, there's no way you can do anything. So being able to see the ball is the biggest thing. Otherwise, you're just kind of dead in the water.
Thank you. I love defense. So it was really interesting for me to hear that. So, but I've never tried it on a soccer field. So I'll leave that to the expert. All right. I guess a quickie question. How's the pinky coming along?
Good. It's doing great. I mean, okay. It
That's
doesn't look like it's great, but that's actually, that one's the good joint of this finger that I've dislocated a bunch of times before. So the one where I injured was actually in the front. So my spider leg is what I call it. But no, good. It's been timing wise, it was, if there's such a thing as good timing on getting an injury, this is probably it. Because I had to get surgery. They opened up the front and kind of cut into it, and it was a live surgery. I just had my hand over to the side, which was very weird. And then they put a pin in on the top side. Stitches came out a week later. I tried to train with that. I trained for 3 days with a pin in my finger, and I would not recommend it to anybody. It's a very disgusting feeling when the ball hits your finger and you feel a pin kind of twist a little bit inside your finger. So we decided to take it out, and since then it's been fantastic. I can't complain.
Makes it a lot easier when I'm just a keyboard warrior. All right. Well, I know you guys are getting close to the end of the season as well, so hopefully you guys have a nice strong run here to get set up well for the playoffs. Just some kind of wrapping up quickie things. These are things that we talk to our customers about pretty frequently. We do a lot of education information. I'll have this as part of what I send out to you all as well. But it's like some important things about when you are making the decision to go solar is make sure you get multiple quotes. We'd love your business, obviously, and we would love to have more business, but it's really important to kind of compare and contrast and make sure you're comfortable with the installers. Once you start getting multiple quotes, you can see the differences a lot of times between the companies, and that's oftentimes where you quickly learn where you want to step back from or approach somebody as far as being involved with them as far as doing business. Some other clues are how long they've been in business. We lean towards that heavily because, well, we're the oldest solar company around. We've been around for 22 years. So, hey, but there's a lot of companies that have popped up in the last few years that are doing really kind of sketchy things. And so there's some great competitors that are here locally, and just always make sure you get at least 2 or 3 quotes. Make sure they're NABCEP certified. That's a North American Board Certified Energy Practitioners, that they're a member of WASIA, which is the Washington State's Energy Industry Association, Solar Industry Association. If they're members of Solar Washington, check them out on Solar Reviews, Energy Sage, other places, and look at reviews, not just the ratings, because a lot of times the reviews, when you start reading them, they're actually pretty scary. And compare the quotes, making sure that you're kind of comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges with things. Sometimes, we show up with like a nice premium product like an REC module, and somebody else shows up with something that's from made in China that's really a poor quality module, and they don't tell you what it is. We tell you what it is you're going to get when we start going through the quote process. We try to be very transparent. So make sure you're comparing things, and that you're also looking at things like the product warranties. Some people are selling panels out there with 10 or 15-year warranties. We try to go for 25, like almost every single time. And then workmanship as well. Some companies do 5 or 10 years. We do 25 years. We've been around long enough that we can go back and see some of our first installations and look at our side of the equipment. It's like what we did is just fine. And so we back up what we do. And so those are some important things to look at. It's not just, to me, value isn't just the cheapest price, but it's also the other pieces that come along with it, and having a full service monitoring department there too. So these are some of the resources that I'll have in here for you all as well. Links to Stefan's Instagram, his website. There is a really cool video that came out a couple days ago on my Sounders story. It's out on YouTube as well. You can see his warmth and passion for things here, and you see it even more in that video, I think. We've got a nice case study that talks a little bit about their solar installation. And then kind of the llast one I have up here is just us, Puget Sound Solar. So that's really just kind of our presentation today, and just a quickie Zoom webinar. I really appreciate y'all coming. My email's up on top. I think Derek and Paul, you probably have Roy's email already, is my guess. But if you have any questions about this or any type of solar questions, please reach out, let us know. We're happy to answer anything you might have. And Roy, thank you for being here. Stefan,
Oh, sure.
Jennifer, really appreciate your time. I want to give folks, do you have kind of last questions that you have of the Freis at this point?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
We just appreciate this opportunity
Yeah,
and
really do.
all the wonderful information that was provided so that we can make a well-informed decision.
Yeah.
Good. That's perfect. That's the only reason why we're doing this. So wish you all the best on this journey, though.
And
Thank you.
and if I may, outside of the solar, we you're probably our favorite Sounders player. I kind of like Jordan a little bit, but you're probably our favorite Sounders player. Stefan.
I'll accept Jordan. That's fine. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I could also never be a keeper. I played soccer from age 5 through high school, and I was mostly a defender except for my last 2 years where coach put me as a striker, and my job was just to take out the goalkeeper. So sorry about that.
Enforcer. I like it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, unless anybody has anything they want to throw in here at the last minute, I'm ready to wrap and we'll call it a night. And I just thank you all for your time and keep thinking about solar and have a great evening.